everyone? Today I'm going to be going over my 2019 early Big 12 outlook. Today I'm going to be going over each one of these 10 teams from the Big 12, and I'm going to be giving my first outlook on each one of them. Of course, we're in very early parts of the offseason, so these opinions are going to change as the months go by. But these are just my first looking at these teams. I've been doing some research and looking at the teams and seeing who they're having to leave, or who's having to leave each one of these teams after this season, who's all going on to the NFL, and how that can affect teams, and also looking over their schedules for the first time. First, we're going to be going over Iowa State. So Iowa State, Hakeem Butler decided to leave for the NFL. That'll be a big loss for them coming into this season. They lose a few linemen, not too many though, for it to be very impactful. They could be very good. This is a team, Iowa State, the last couple of years, they pulled off some great upsets, and they went to a pretty good bowl game this year. They were ranked for the majority of the season. It wasn't too high, but they were kind of just hanging in there. This team, I think, has a lot of potential. They could be very good this year. Of course, they're returning plenty of kids. So I think that, this is a team that has a ton of potential. Could they make a run for the Big 12 championship? That is a question that has to be determined yet. I think that's it's very arguable to say that they could. But looking at how Oklahoma and Texas are going to be this year, I think that it's not going to happen this year. Could they get third or fourth in the Big 12? That very well could happen, but I don't expect them getting to the Big 12 championship yet. So expect big things from Iowa State. I think their 2019 outlook is excellent. They're returning everyone, and I don't know what's not to like about this Iowa State team. And then you got their head coach, I believe he's Matt Campbell. He is something special, and I think he's really going to lead this team very well. So on to our next team, West Virginia. So this has been a team that did really well this year. They got it to a great start. They had a bumpy end of the season. Of course, they lost to Syracuse in their bowl game. They got nailed by them pretty good, but that just shows what they're like without Will Grier. Because looking at next season, they're gonna be without Will Grier, so that's something to note. Dana Holgorsen has left to go to Houston. That was a surprising move for me. I really didn't expect that. Of course, since he did pretty well with West Virginia over the last few years, and so him going to Houston's kind of surprising there. But they're bringing in Troy head coach Neil Brown. How is that going to go? I don't really know what to expect yet. Neil Brown, he seems like a good head coach. He looks very motivating, and I think he's got potential as well. But do I think that they're going to be good this year? I think it may be a rough year for West Virginia. They're losing many other players as well. It's not only Will Grier, that's the thing. And so I think this could be a little rough year for West Virginia. Record-wise, you could probably expect 4-8 to 5-7. That's what I would expect from West Virginia this year. 2019 outlook, I would say, is poor right now. Of course, opinions, they can still change. We could see some transfers, some surprising transfers. And, of course, recruiting is another big thing. West Virginia doesn't have a very high recruiting class right now, but as well, that could change. We're just in January right now. So, as for West Virginia right now, don't expect too much from them next season. Position-wise in the Big 12, I don't know. I'd say probably 8th or 9th, somewhere around there. People may be surprised by that after West Virginia had a pretty good year this year. But once again, Will Grier leaving is a key factor in that prediction. Next up, we have Baylor. So they did all right last year. They got 6-6. They made it to a bowl game and beat Vanderbilt. That was a big win for them. I really didn't expect much from Baylor last season. I thought they were gonna miss a bowl game actually. But they're returning lots of players. This is a team that I think has a good chance to make a better bowl game next year. I think they will make a bowl game. Record-wise, I'd say 7-5. They lose a few linemen and defensive players, but of course, as I said, returning the majority of their offense. I think they'll be better next year. And so, yeah, I think you could expect pretty good things from Baylor. Do I think they're ranking potential yet? I would say no. But of course, they've got a young team. This is a team that I think has potential to go on and possibly get into the ranks in a couple years. So 2019 outlook for Baylor, I would say good. So looking forward to what Baylor is going to do. This is a team that I was hard to predict on. I mean, you could say Baylor could be good or bad. I mean, I thought they were going to go 4-8 last year. Really didn't expect much from them. But next on, we have Kansas. So they picked up former LSU coach Les Miles. That is a huge pickup, I think, for Kansas. And I think Les Miles is really going to turn that program around. Kansas hasn't been good in a really long time in football. They've been more of a basketball school for quite a while. So I think Les Miles could turn that around. It's more of a matter of when, as what I would say. They lose Peyton Bender. He, I believe, is their starting quarterback. They lose 3 big receivers. Lose a few linemen, especially on defense. And so I think this may be a year similar to others. Les Miles' first year in Kansas probably won't go too well. I'd say record-wise, 3-9. They'll probably pick up 3 wins, maybe an upset win in the Big 12 in there. This is a team that can upset, especially when you got Les Miles. You never know what he's going to pull off. But of course, with Les Miles, he did so well at LSU for plenty of time. I thought he was going to retire, which he said he did, but I guess he didn't. So he's going back to Kansas. Should be I think he's going to do some great things down there. 2019 outlook, I'd say poor for this year. 2020, 2021, possibly they could be a team that could make a bowl game for the first time in a while. On to Kansas State. They pick up North Dakota State head coach Chris Klieman. That is going to be, North Dakota State has always been really good. They've won so many national championships up in FCS, so that is huge for them. They return Skylar Thompson, their quarterback. They lose a couple running backs, and they lose a receiver. So they're kind of on offense. They've got running backs to back up who they're going to be leaving. But the thing is, though, they're just going to see. It's going to be interesting to see how they do. They lose a couple offensive linemen. They bring back lots of players still. This is a team that I think could be better than last year. And I think, will they make a bowl game? I would say they do. They're going to go 6-6, I think. It won't be a great season, but it'll be good enough to say that they were able to make a bowl game. 2019 outlook is good for Kansas State. This is a team that was also pretty hard to predict, obviously, because you got a new head coach in there. And, of course, first-year head coaches, it can either go really well or it could go really bad. A good example of going really bad is John Gruden down at the Oakland Raiders. He did not have too great of a season. And, of course, last year as well, for first-year head coaches, we saw some promising games from them. But, of course, for most of the head coaches, the first-year head coaches didn't do too well. So it'll be interesting to see how Chris Klieman does down at K-State. On to Oklahoma. This is going to be a very interesting team. I have no idea how they're going to do. Of course, they lose Kyler Murray. That is huge for Oklahoma. But just recently, within the last week, they picked up Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts decided to transfer from Alabama. I was pretty sure he'd be transferring to Big 12 school. Didn't know if it'd be TCU or Oklahoma. I knew Oklahoma was on his mind for quite some time. But that is huge for them to get Jalen Hurts. He's a senior this year, so they're only going to have him for 1 year. So I think that's going to be huge for Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that I think is really good. He's at the same level as Tua down at Alabama. So I think Oklahoma will be fine at running back and tight end. They're not losing too many there. I believe they're not losing any tight ends. They lose a few key receivers, which I think will affect them majorly. Of course, because now you got to get some receivers that need to come up and rise up to their potentials. They lose all 5 offensive linemen starters. And the real question here is, if Jalen Hurts, I believe he is going to start at Oklahoma this season, and time will tell, but I think Jalen Hurts will start. Depends on how he's going to do. I think Hurts is going to have a pretty good season. Do I think he's going to make a playoff run? I would say no. I think they're going to make a New Year's 6 bowl game, but I do not expect Oklahoma to beat Texas in the Big 12 championship. I've got those teams in the Big 12 championship once again, Texas and Oklahoma. Texas, I think, will be the better team this year, and Texas may as well go on to the college football playoff, but I'll talk more about them in a little bit. Next up, we have Oklahoma State. They lose Taylor Cornelius. That is a big loss from them. Drew Brown is a transfer from Hawaii. Could he start at quarterback? I believe he will. Of course, Oklahoma State still has a couple other quarterbacks, so it will be interesting to see who starts for them. They bring back most of their offense. That is major for Oklahoma State. And I think, on defense, though, they lose their entire defensive line. Their entire starting defensive line is now gone. So that is going to be a weak spot for them, I think, this year. They lose 2 linebackers and 1 quarterback. So that's a pretty big loss, too. Most unpredictable Big 12 team title goes to Oklahoma State this offseason. It is really going to be hard to predict this team. I think that they're going to be all right. I don't think they're going to be great. Record-wise, probably 5-7 or 6-6. It's good, but kind of like last year, they were hopping around. They'd upset one team, and then they lose to a really bad team. So you never know with Oklahoma State. But I say that there will be. Will they make a bowl game? I think it's going to be close. 5-7 or 6-6, as I said, for Oklahoma State. On to Texas. This is a team that I really think is going to be great next season. They had a great win over Georgia, and I knew. Once they beat Georgia and how they beat Georgia, this is a team that has a lot of potential. Now, will they make a playoff run in 2019? I believe they will. They're going to be really close. I think it's going to be Oklahoma and Texas. They're going to be ranked in the top, I'd say 7 or 8. Both of them will be. And once they face off in the Big 12 championship, one of those teams is going to go to the playoff. Texas or Oklahoma. Would not be surprised to see one of them in there. They return Sam Ehlinger, great quarterback. That'll be huge for them. They return most of their running backs and receivers. That is also huge. This will be a great offense, I think, next year, because they got all experienced receivers, backs. That is huge, and they got Ehlinger to go with it. That's pretty big. They lose a couple defensive linemen. Will they be better than Oklahoma? That's a good question as well. I do not think that they will be. I think they're going to be really close with Oklahoma. Of course, now Oklahoma has Hurts, so it's hard to bend against them right now. But I still think Texas is going to come on top of them. Big 12 championship, or I would say they're going to be the Big 12 champion this year. 2019 outlook is excellent for Texas. Expect big things from this team as well. On to TCU. This is a team that is also pretty hard to predict. They're struggling at the quarterback position. Who knows who's going to be the quarterback for them this season? They have Rodgers, they have Collins. It's hard to tell who's going to be the quarterback right now, but I'm sure within the next few months we will find out who will be their starting quarterback. It was 3 receivers, but they return most of their running backs. So that is good for TCU. They're going to be good at the running back position. Of course, they still have to fill in those receiver spots. Their offense with they got 2 iffy quarterbacks. It's going to be hard to tell how this offense is going to be. And of course, if you're going to be a good Big 12 team, you need a good offense. Because, defensively, most defensive Big 12 games tend to end up being like 50 to 40 score games like TCU. There were a few games last season. Those Texas and Oklahoma games, really high scoring. Every Big 12 game is really high scoring. As a matter of that fact, they don't lose too many starters. 2019 outlook, I would say, is poor for TCU. I think that they're going to miss the bowl game, actually. I think they're going to go 5-7. They're going to be close, but I don't think they're going to make it. This is just a team that, there's a lot of uncertainty on this team right now. If the quarterback rises up and does really well, that is a different story. But as of right now, I say that they miss a bowl game. Now on to the last team, which is Texas Tech. Cliff Kingsbury has now left their head coach. They get Matt Wills from Utah State, and they're good. This team's pretty good at quarterback and running back positions, I would think. They lose plenty of receivers, and their main down area is in the safety position on defense. Other than that, your defense is pretty good. They don't lose too many on defense. But the thing is, first-year coaching struggles. Could that be a factor for Matt Wells? I think that he will. It'll be an iffy season. I don't think it's going to be too great of a season. Maybe 6-6. at best for Texas Tech. But I think they will make a bowl game. It's going to be close, but I think they will make a bowl game this year. So Texas Tech, I mean, they kind of struggled last year as well. So that is something to point out as well. So that is it for all 10 of the Big 12 teams. I'll be going over each of these teams once again as we get into spring. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on each of these teams. I mean, there's a lot of potential with a few of these teams, especially like with Texas and Iowa State. I believe Iowa State is a team that, I mean, they're not really thought about right now, but this could be a team that everyone, I think they're going to be pretty good. Iowa State, definitely a team to watch out for. So, hey, thank you guys all for watching. Show some support, and only if you would like to. And I will see you all later.